The Assembly will now come to order. The Chief Clerk will call the roll.
Assemblywoman Anderson, Assemblywoman Backus, Assemblywoman Bilbray Axelrod, Assemblywoman Brown May, Assemblyman Carter, Assemblywoman Cohen, Assemblywoman Considine, Assemblyman DeLong, Assemblywoman Dickman, Assemblyman De Silva, Assemblywoman Duran, Assemblywoman Gallant, Assemblywoman Gonzalez, Assemblywoman Gorlow, Assemblyman Gray, Assemblyman Gurr, Assemblyman Hafen, Assemblywoman Hanson, Assemblywoman Hardy, Assemblyman Hibbets, Assemblywoman Howdigi, Assemblywoman Kasama, Assemblyman Koenig, Assemblywoman LaRue Hatch, Assemblywoman Marzola, Assemblyman MacArthur, Assemblywoman Brittany Miller, Assemblyman C.H. Miller, Assemblywoman Monroe Moreno, Assemblywoman Mosca, Assemblywoman Newby, Assemblyman Wynn, Assemblyman O'Neill, Assemblyman Orlicker, Assemblywoman Peters, Assemblywoman Summers Armstrong, Assemblywoman Taylor, Assemblywoman Thomas, Assemblywoman Torres, Assemblyman Watts, Assemblyman Urick, Speaker Yeager.
Here. Assemblywoman Howdigi.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. May the record show we have 42 members present.
The record so shall reflect. There are 42 members present. We do have a quorum. Would the members of the Assembly and guests please rise for the prayer by Pastor Gavin Jarvis, Livingstone's Church, from right here in Carson City.
Lord God, the book of Proverbs says this: the Lord gives wisdom. From his mouth comes knowledge and understanding. He stores up sound wisdom for the upright. He is a shield for those who walk in integrity, guarding the paths of justice and watching over the ways of his saints. Lord, as the assembly convenes this morning, I pray for them. You made humanity with wisdom and reason and gave the ability to govern, and you put on the hearts of all here to lead on behalf of the people in our state. You say that you have placed all of us in the times and places that we live, and it is ultimately you who have placed us here in this time and in this state with the capacity and calling to lead. Therefore, Father, grant our leaders vision, wisdom, and discernment so they will continue to be strong and effective leaders. Everyone here knows the gravity of the decisions that are made and their impact on all of Nevada, and I pray that you would give them wisdom. You are not a God of confusion, but a God of order and of peace. And I pray that in every action taken here, there would be clarity and understanding that would bring decisions that lead to the thriving of Nevada. Help them continue to govern through the remainder of this session with integrity, and may that high commitment to integrity guide them in their decisions and actions today. For all of them, I pray that you would protect their health, keep them safe. And for those who are away from home, I pray that you would grant them rest as they are away from loved ones and familiar places. You say that all who come to you may ask for wisdom, and you will give without reproach. And so we lay this before you. To you be glory and honor forever and today. Amen.
Amen. Please remain standing for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Order business 2, reading and approval of the journal.
Carson City, Wednesday.
Assemblywoman
March 15.
Howdigi.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I move to end with reading of the journal and allow the Speaker and Chief Clerk to make any necessary corrections and additions.
You've heard the motion. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed, nay. Motion carries. Order business 4, reports of standing committees.
Mr. Speaker, your Committee on Commerce and Labor, to which will refer to Assembly Bill 78, 107, 124, 163, has had the same under consideration and begs leave to report the same back. The recommendation do pass. Elaine Marzola, Chair.
Order business 7, messages from the Senate.
Senate Chamber, Carson City, March 15, 2023. To the Honorable the Assembly. I have the honor to inform the Honorable Body that the Senate on this day passed Assembly Bill 165. Sherry Rodriguez, Assistant Secretary of the Senate.
Order of business 8, motions, resolutions, and notices.
Assembly Joint Resolution 1, introduced by Assemblyman MacArthur et al., Senators Krasner et al. Urging the United States Department of Veterans Affairs to study the effectiveness and use of hyperbaric oxygen therapy for veterans. Resolved that this resolution becomes effective upon passage. End of resolution.
Remarks. Assemblyman MacArthur.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Assembly Joint Resolution 1 urges the United States Department of Veterans Affairs to study the effectiveness and use of hyperbaric oxygen therapy for veterans and share the results with the state of Nevada.
Are there any further remarks? Assemblywoman Bilbray Axelrod.
Yes, I was just wondering, Mr. Speaker, if order of business 15?
Order of business 15.
If the assemblyman could explain what a hyperbaric oxygen therapy is.
Assemblyman MacArthur, would you like to answer that question?
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Hyperbaric oxygen therapy is basically putting in a lot of oxygen in your system. So you basically have to have a mask so you can stay pressurized. So it pushes the oxygen into the pressure at about 3 times your normal amount. And this helps out the blood and your flexibility. But actually you have to have about 20 of those systems before it really has an effect. So does that get enough? Thank you.
Thank you, Assemblyman. Do we have further remarks? Assemblyman O'Neill, please.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Order of business 15, please.
Order of business 15.
In support of our Assemblyman's resolution, in additional information, it's actually been, there is information, preliminary information that it assists greatly with both PTSD treatments, but also burn treatment, scars. And I'll offer to you, several weeks ago, some of you may know Jay Leno, may be familiar to you. He suffered a serious burn while working on a Stanley Steamer vehicle. He was in and out of the hospital within 3 days. Part of that, and mainly because he received HIBOT treatment during that time out of his own expense. It has proven worthy. We're just asking, so I will ask all my memberships in this body to vote in favor of it. Thank you.
Thank you. Do we have any further remarks on Assembly Joint Resolution 1? Seeing no further remarks, the Chief Clerk will open the roll. Would anyone like to change their vote? The Chief Clerk will record the vote. There are 42 ayes, 0 nays. The resolution having received a constitutional majority, I declare it passed and order transmitted to the Senate.
Waiver of joint standing rules, 82nd Legislative Session. A waiver requested by Senator Cannizzaro for BDR 40-38 revises provisions governing the costs of health care to waive subsection 1 of Joint Standing Rule 14.2. Dates for introduction of BDRs requested by individual legislators and committees. Subsection 1 of Joint Standing Rule 14.3 out of final committee of House of Origin by 68th day. Subsection 2 of Joint Standing Rule 14.3 out of House of Origin by 79th day. Subsection 3 of Joint Standing Rule 14.3 out of final committee of Second House by 103rd day. Subsection 4 of Joint Standing Rule 14.3 out of Second House by 110th day has been granted effective March 16, 2023. Senator Nicole Cannizzaro, Senate Majority Leader. Assemblyman Steve Yeager, Speaker of the Assembly.
Assemblywoman Howdigi.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Staying under Order of Business 8, I move that Assembly Bill 76 and Assembly Bill 2668 be moved to the top of general file.
You've heard the motion. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed, nay. Motion carries. We'll go next to Order of Business 9, Introduction, First Reading, and Reference of Bills.
Assembly Bill 312, introduced by Assemblywoman Peters, enacting the Environmental Justice, creating the Commission on Environmental Justice, setting forth certain duties of commissions, establishing various requirements for agencies to determine the environmental impact of a proposed regulation on historically underserved communities, and providing other matters properly named thereto.
Assemblywoman Torres.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I move that AB 312 be referred to your best committee, the Assembly Committee on Government Affairs.
Could you restate the motion? I didn't hear it.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I move that AB 312 be referred to your best committee, the Assembly Committee on Government Affairs.
Without objection, so referred.
Assembly Bill 313, introduced by Assemblywoman Peters, enacting to mining, requiring an operator of a mining operation to submit a revised plan for reclamation under certain circumstances, revising provisions relating to the reclamation of exploration projects and mining operations, revising requirements relating to a plan for reclamation, providing penalty, and providing other matters properly named thereto.
Assemblywoman Cohen.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I move to refer Assembly Bill 313 to your Committee on Natural Resources.
Without objection, so referred.
Assembly Bill 314, introduced by Assemblyman Gallant et al., Senator Stone, an act relating to local government restricting the authority of a Board of County Commissioners governing body of a city or town board to regulate home-based businesses and providing other measures properly in there too.
Assemblywoman Torres.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I move that AB 314 be referred to your August Committee on Government Affairs.
Without objection, so referred.
Assembly Bill 315, introduced by Assemblywoman Hardy, an act relating to energy requiring the Director of the Office of Energy to coordinate with certain entities to recommend best practices for issuing a permit for geothermal energy, temporarily creating the Geothermal Energy Systems Demonstration Program, prohibiting certain restrictions on the use of a system for obtaining geothermal energy by the owners of real property, requiring the Office of Energy to conduct an interim study relating to geothermal energy and providing other measures properly in there too.
Assemblyman Watts.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I move that Assembly Bill 315 be referred to your humble Committee on Growth and Infrastructure.
Without objection, so referred.
Assembly Bill 316, introduced by Assemblyman C.H. Miller, an act relating to motor vehicles, revising the penalty for the unlawful possession of unregistered vehicles unfit for use and providing other measures properly in there too.
Assemblyman Watts.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I move that Assembly Bill 316 be referred to your Committee on Growth and Infrastructure.
Without objection, so referred.
Assembly Bill 317, introduced by Assemblyman Gonzalez et al., Senator Spearman et al., an act relating to education, revising provisions relating to dual credit courses offered by an institution of higher education located in another state and providing other measures properly in there too.
Assemblywoman Bilbray Axelrod.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I move that Assembly Bill 317 be referred to your most excellent Committee on Education.
Without objection, so referred.
Assembly Bill 318, introduced by Assemblyman Nguyen et al., Senators Joniate and Pazina, an act relating to medicine, revising certain procedures relating to the expiration of a license to practice medicine, requiring a physician assistant, practitioner of respiratory care, or perfusionist, or the insurer of such a person to report certain information relating to an action or claim of malpractice to the Board of Medical Examiners, providing administrative penalties, requiring the Board to investigate a physician assistant, practitioner of respiratory care, or perfusionist in certain circumstances, authorizing the Board to examine such a person under certain circumstances, and providing other measures properly in there too.
Assemblywoman Marzola.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I move that Assembly Bill 318 be referred to your Committee on Commerce and Labor.
Without objection, so referred.
Assembly Bill 319, introduced by Assemblywoman Howdigi, an act making an appropriation to the Department of Education for the purpose of awarding grants of money to Nevada school districts to provide universal free breakfast and lunch for Nevada pupils and providing other measures properly in there too.
Assemblywoman Monroe Moreno.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I move that AB 319 be referred to your Committee on Ways and Means.
Without objection, so referred.
Assembly Bill 320, introduced by Assemblyman Dickman et al., Senators Flores et al., an act relating to internet privacy, imposing certain requirements on certain businesses that provide an online service, product, or feature that is likely to be accessed by children, exempting certain information and entities from those requirements, providing a civil penalty for violations of those requirements, requiring the Attorney General to take certain actions before bringing a civil action against a business to recover such a civil penalty under certain circumstances, and providing other measures properly in there too.
Assemblywoman Marzola.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I move that Assembly Bill 320 be referred to your Committee on Commerce and Labor.
Without objection, so referred.
Assembly Bill 321, introduced by Assemblyman Carter et al., an act relating to public safety, setting forth certain requirements and restrictions concerning foil balloons that are sold, offered for sale, or manufactured in the state, prohibiting with certain exceptions a person from selling, offering for sale, or manufacturing a foil balloon that fails to meet certain requirements, requiring the Public Utilities Commission of Nevada to adopt a standard for the testing and evaluation of the dielectric performance of foil balloons, prohibiting a person from committing certain acts against the infrastructure of a public utility, providing penalties, and providing other measures properly in there too.
Assemblywoman Marzola.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I move that Assembly Bill 321 be referred to your Committee on Commerce and Labor.
Without objection, so referred.
Assembly Bill 322, introduced by Assemblyman Nguyen et al., Senators Hansen and Nguyen, an act relating to public health, prohibiting a person from preparing, distributing, advertising, selling, or offering to sell a kratom product unless the kratom product has been registered with the State Board of Oriental Medicine, setting forth requirements for the registration of a kratom product with the board, authorizing the board to take certain actions relating to kratom products offered for sale that are not registered with the board, authorizing the board to adopt certain regulations governing kratom products, revising provisions establishing certain prohibited acts relating to kratom products, providing penalties, and providing other matters properly in thereto.
Assemblywoman Marzola.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I move that Assembly Bill 322 be referred to your Committee on Commerce and Labor.
Without objection, so referred.
Assembly Bill 323, introduced by Assemblyman Torres et al., Senators Doñate et al., an act relating to education requiring the superintendent of public instruction to develop a strategic plan for the recruitment of teachers and other licensed educational personnel, requiring the Commission on Professional Standards in Education to adopt certain regulations concerning licensing of teachers and other educational personnel, authorizing a school district to compensate a student who is assigned for training purposes as a student teacher, counselor, or trainee in a library, authorizing a school district or the governing body of a charter school to provide certain professional development training, creating the incentivizing pathways to teaching account in the state general fund, establishing the incentivizing pathways to teaching program, and providing other matters properly in thereto.
Assemblywoman Bilbray Axelrod.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I move that Assembly Bill 323 be moved to your most excellent Committee on Education.
Without objection, so referred. We'll go next to Order of Business 11, second reading and amendment.
Assembly Bill 2, introduced by the Committee on Growth and Infrastructure, an act relating to public safety, authorizing certain vehicles used by a local governmental agency or owned or operated by a contractor thereof to be equipped with and use tail lamps that emit non-flashing blue light under certain circumstances, and providing other matters properly in thereto. The people of the state of Nevada, represented in Senate and Assembly, do enact as follows: Section 1, end of Section 1, Section 2, end of Section 2, end of bill.
Are there any amendments to Section 1 of the bill as a whole?
There are none.
Bill's ordered to general file.
Assembly Bill 3, introduced by the Committee on Government Affairs, and act relating to the State Permanent School Fund, reducing the frequency of financial reports of the State Permanent School Fund, and providing other matters properly in thereto. The people of the state of Nevada, represented in Senate and Assembly, do enact as follows: Section 1, end of Section 1, Section 2, end of Section 2, end of bill.
Are there any amendments to Section 1 of the bill as a whole?
There are none.
The bill is ordered to general file.
Assembly Bill 33, introduced by the Committee on Government Affairs, and act relating to governmental financial administration, revising provisions governing the investment of money in the State Permanent School Fund, revising provisions governing the investment of money by certain governmental entities, revising provisions governing money transferred to the State Permanent School Fund to a corporation for public benefit to provide private equity funding to certain businesses, and providing other matters properly in thereto. The people of the state of Nevada, represented in Senate and Assembly, do enact as follows: Section 1, end of Section 1, Section 5, end of Section 5, end of bill.
Are there any amendments to Section 1 of the bill as a whole?
There are none.
The bill is ordered to general file.
Assembly Bill 36, introduced by the Committee on Government Affairs, and act relating to veterans, adding certain members to the Interagency Council on Veterans Affairs, revising certain data submitted to the Council, removing a requirement that the Council develop an administrative fellowship program, revising the time period to which certain reports pertain, revising the duties of the Women's Veterans Advisory Committee, and providing other matters properly in thereto. The people of the state of Nevada, represented in Senate and Assembly, do enact as follows: Section 1, end of Section 1, Section 7, end of Section 7, end of bill.
Are there any amendments to Section 1 of the bill as a whole?
There are none.
The bill is ordered to general file.
Assembly Bill 43, introduced by the Committee on Education, an act relating to emergency management, revising certain deadlines relating to school emergency operations plans, and providing other matters properly in thereto. The people of the state of Nevada, represented in Senate and Assembly, do enact as follows: Section 1, end of Section 1, Section 4, end of Section 4, end of bill.
Are there any amendments to Section 1 of the bill as a whole?
There are none.
The bill is ordered to general file.
Assembly Bill 47, introduced by the Committee on Growth and Infrastructure, an act relating to off-highway vehicles, revising provisions governing public trails for the operation of off-highway vehicles, and providing other matters properly in thereto. The people of the state of Nevada, represented in Senate and Assembly, do enact as follows: Section 1, end of Section 1, end of bill.
Are there any amendments to Section 1 of the bill as a whole?
There are none.
The bill is ordered to general file.
Assembly Bill 82, introduced by Assemblywoman Mosca, an act relating to days of observance, requiring the governor to annually proclaim the Saturday immediately preceding the last Saturday in October as World Esports Day in the state, and providing other matters properly in thereto. The people of the state of Nevada, represented in Senate and Assembly, do enact as follows: Section 1, end of Section 1, Section 2, end of Section 2, end of bill.
Are there any amendments to Section 1 of the bill as a whole?
There are none.
The bill is ordered to general file. Go next to Order of Business 12, general file and third reading.
Assembly Bill 76, introduced by Assemblyman Yeager, an act relating to civil actions, increasing the maximum amount recoverable as costs for the reasonable fees of certain expert witnesses, and providing other matters properly in thereto. The people of the state of Nevada, represented in Senate and Assembly, do enact as follows: Section 1, end of Section 1, Section 3, end of Section 3, end of bill.
Are there any amendments to Section 1 of the bill as a whole?
There are none.
Remarks. Assemblywoman Considine.
Thank you, Speaker. Assembly Bill 76 increases the maximum amount of costs that a court may award to a prevailing party for the reasonable fees of expert witnesses from $1,500 for each expert witness to not more than $15,000 for each expert witness.
Are there any further remarks? Seeing none, the Chief Clerk will open the roll. Does anyone wish to change their vote? The Chief Clerk will record the vote. There are 42 ayes, 0 nays. The bill having received a constitutional majority, I declare it passed and order transmitted to the Senate.
Assembly Bill 268, introduced by the Committee on Ways and Means, an act making appropriations for the payment of retention incentives to certain employees of the state government and providing a notice relating thereto. The people of the state of Nevada, represented in Senate and Assembly, do enact as follows. Section 1, end of Section 1, Section 4, end of Section 4, end of bill.
Are there any amendments to Section 1 of the bill as a whole?
There are none.
Remarks. Assemblywoman Monroe Moreno.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Assembly Bill 268, as amended, makes general fund appropriations for the payment of retention incentives of $500 to employees of the state government employed on March 31st, 2023 and June 16th, 2023 as follows. $2,970,000 to the Governor's Office of Finance for employees for the executive and judicial divisions of state government, except for persons whose positions are temporary, intermittent, or seasonal, or positions for which are a crucial labor shortage. Professional staffs for the Nevada System of Higher Education, and persons whose compensation is paid from a budget account that is not subject to NRS 353.150 to 353.246, inclusive, unless otherwise provided. It also provides for $325,000 to the Legislature Fund for employees of the Legislative Department of State Government, except for persons whose positions are for the legislative session or are otherwise temporary, intermittent, season employees, and an additional $81,000 for the Public Employees Retirement System for employees of PERS, except for persons whose positions are temporary, intermediate, or seasonal, or positions for which these are critical labor shortage. And this becomes effective upon passage.
Are there any further remarks? Seeing none, the Chief Clerk will open the roll. Would any member like to change their vote? The Chief Clerk will record the vote. There are 42 ayes, 0 nays. The bill having received a constitutional majority, I declare it passed and ordered transmitted to the Senate. Assemblywoman Howdiggy.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I move that Assembly Bill 17, Assembly Bill 19, Assembly Bill 68, and Assembly Bill 231 be rolled to the next legislative calendar.
You've heard the motion. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed, nay. Motion carries. Those bills will be moved to the calendar for the next legislative day. We'll now go to Order Business 15, remarks from the floor. Assemblywoman Summers Armstrong.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I would like to introduce some special guests today. We have David Goldwater and his lovely family, his wife, Selena Kish, his daughter, Alessandra Goldwater, and his son, Alexander Goldwater, visiting us today from Las Vegas. You all may know Mr. Goldwater. He served in this chamber from 1995 to 2001. He is a battle-born, born in Vegas, Gorman graduate, and it's just lovely to have his family here with me today. So please make them feel welcome.
Assemblywoman Bilbray Axelrod.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I have some very special guests. I've had very special guests all week, but this is a real highlight. I have 4 of my constituents. You might recognize some of these folks. I have Lake Martin, who is amazing in her own right, but also happens to be married to our treasurer. And then we've got Rutherford, who goes by Ford, Conine. We've got Ruby, and we've got Teddy, who is actually Theodore, but he goes by Teddy. And Teddy and Ford are twins, and they're 5. And guess who's older? By 1 minute. And Ruby is 9, but she's very cool, and she kind of seems like a teenager. So thank you, and I hope you make them feel welcome.
Assemblywoman Torres.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Today I stand in recognition that we continue to celebrate Children's Week here at the Nevada State Legislature, and today's theme is safety. As an educator, I know safety in our schools is of the utmost importance to the well-being and success of our students. It is critical that our children have a supportive learning environment in which they're able to thrive and achieve their full potential, both inside and outside the classroom. I am proud to be working with and supporting my colleagues this session on legislation that works to improve safety outcomes while maintaining fairness and equity in the process. We are so fortunate to have nonprofits, direct service providers, and advocates here at the legislature who do this work day in and day out to ensure a better quality of life for our children and their families. For the past 4 legislative sessions, more than 80 organizations have come together to voice the concerns of our constituents and together strengthen the voice of Nevada's families. I encourage my colleagues, if you have not already done so, to stop by 3100 this week to explore the resources and meet dedicated advocates working tirelessly for our children in this great state. Thank you.
Assemblywoman Backus.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Today is CASA Day at the Nevada Legislature. Nevada Volunteer Court-appointed special advocates, known as CASA, serve as the voices for children in the foster care system. A CASA is a trained volunteer, sworn in and appointed to a specific case by a family court judge. CASA volunteers' goal is permanency for their child or children. They advocate on behalf of their children's physical, educational, medical, emotional, and special needs. Today, we have 740 CASA volunteers across Nevada who represent 1,274 children. If you can, the CASA volunteers today are in blue shirts. They're in the front of the building. But if they can stand, and everyone, please help me welcome CASA and the CASA volunteers.
Assemblywoman Mosca.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I'm excited to introduce my good friend who's here today, Cindy Rivera. She's a first-generation college graduate. Her family is from El Salvador. She's been a resident of Nevada since the late 90s when she started a small business supporting people who identify with disabilities. And in 2012, we met when she did Teach for America. She was a teacher at Diaz and Detweiler Elementary School in East Las Vegas and is a founding member of Futuro Academy, which is a state public charter school on Lamb in Washington with an almost 50% English language learner rate and almost 70% person of color staff. Please welcome her here today.
Assemblywoman Taylor.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Today, I am excited to have Jalan, sorry, you know how we do, right? Jalan Kia sitting with me. Jalan was born in Reno, Nevada, but now he lives in Dallas, Texas. But he is on spring break from Cedar High School. He also happens to be the son of my attaché. He is a junior. He holds down a job at Papa's Barbecue while studying, and he is the primary parent for his 1-year-old daughter, Alani. After graduation, he wants to become an underwater welder, and he has 3 reasons for that. 1, he enjoys welding. 2, he says he thinks it's going to be an exciting career, and most importantly, he will provide a bright future for himself and for his daughter. So please help me welcome him.
Assemblyman Nguyen.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I am so honored to have three guests with me today. First of all is a return person, just started here last month for the first time, but coming back during his spring break. It's my son, Leeson. He's 9 years old and is wondering when he can have his device back. So, okay, you can sit down now. Thank you, son. Love you. But I have two additional guests here with me today. And first is someone who I admire, who's sitting down recording what I'm talking about right now about him. He's a community leader, a single father, but you know, he is a global entrepreneur as well, and his name is Evan Louie. Mr. Louie got on a 13-hour flight when he heard his daughter is going to be mentioned here in the assembly today. So he took a 13-hour flight to get back to Las Vegas, then take his daughter up here last night so he could be here this morning. So Mr. Louie is very, very popular with the Las Vegas AA and HPI community. He served as chairman of the One API Nevada board. He serves on the Allegiant Stadium Advisory Board and also part of the Las Vegas host committee of the Super Bowl Community Affairs Board. So, and on, you know, in his spare time, whichever that is, he also served on numerous other boards, including the Steve Aoki Charitable Foundation. If you could help make Mr. Louie welcome. And, you know, the last but not least, Mr. Speaker, if you indulge me, is the daughter of Mr. Louie, who I'm very, very proud of to introduce today. Savon Louie is a youth advocate who is deeply passionate about serving her community. Savon is a high school sophomore. Can you come stand next to me? Right here. As you can see, there's a theme. Yesterday, I introduced a 12-year-old that was taller than me. Now today is a 15. Okay, Savon has a lot of accomplishment that is very impressive, including speaking at the United Nations Grand Assembly floor at the age of 9 for the Model United Nations on Women's Rights and International Terrorism. Which 9-year-old can do that? Savon is an active youth advocate in Las Vegas. She has done intro speeches for multiple presidential candidates and volunteer with local campaigns. She also maintained a 4.4 GPA and hold leadership position in several clubs, as well as the founder and president of her school Asian Pacific Student Union. Savon has dedicated over 400 volunteer service hours towards the community for nonprofits, passionate about issues within the community to education, and coordinate volunteer for local organization, and is a 2-time Presidential Gold Service Award recipient. Good thing she doesn't live in my district, so she can't run against me soon. In addition, Savon played club volleyball for her 16 regional team, where she's served as the captain. She is a national qualifier in public forum debate and ranked 36th in the entire Clark County School District. So please join me in welcoming Savon to our assembly floor today and recognize her as a rising young leader. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Assemblyman Watts.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. March 12th through the 18th is celebrated as AmeriCorps Week, an opportunity to recognize the dedication and commitment of the more than 1.2 million Americans who have chosen to serve their country through AmeriCorps, and millions more who have served in AmeriCorps seniors and their community partners. Last year, more than 1,400 AmeriCorps members and AmeriCorps seniors volunteers volunteered at more than 100 locations across Nevada, including in our schools, food banks, homeless shelters, health clinics, youth centers, veterans facilities, and other nonprofit and faith-based organizations. AmeriCorps invested more than $6.9 million in federal funding to support cost-effective community solutions, working hand-in-hand with local partners to empower individuals to help communities tackle their toughest challenges. AmeriCorps and its partners generated more than $1.9 million in outside resources from businesses, foundations, public agencies, and other sources in Nevada, and that's just last year. This local support strengthened community impact and increased the return on our taxpayer dollars. After successful completion of service, AmeriCorps members earn an education award to pay for qualified educational costs, and since 1994, more than 6,800 Nevada residents have served approximately 9.6 million hours and earned education awards totaling more than $23.9 million. It's been my privilege to work with some AmeriCorps partners to help support them in their mission to serve our community, and I ask you to please join me in commending our AmeriCorps volunteers and encouraging more Nevadans to follow their footsteps in service.
Assemblywoman Miller.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. It must be Brag on Children's Day here in the legislature. I have the daughter of our Sergeant-at-Arms, Tony Corda, with us today, and he wrote the introduction, so it's super braggy, okay? So also, they live in my district too as well. So I first like to introduce the daughter, Tess Corda, who was sad not to have been here to attend Nurses Day last month. She is a graduate of UNLV's nursing school and has been an RN at Summerlin Hospital for the past year and a half. While she was obtaining her degree, she was also a member of the UNLV Rebel Girl Dance Team, which during her tenure, they were a 5-time national champions. She also, again, happens to be the daughter of Sergeant-at-Arms Tony. With her is Aaron Borg, who is also a UNLV graduate in hospitality management, who after graduating decided to go to law school. He started in San Diego and then transferred back to UNLV, where he is now pursuing that degree while working with the Tao Group Hospitality. The two have been dating for 6 years, and Dad says, "Pop the question already." I would also like to add that we in this body know that there was a wedding that occurred in the lobby just a few days ago. You're in a building with a lot of folks who can officiate, so just want to put that out there. But anyways, with that, they're happy to visit Carson City and sit on the assembly floor with us today, so thank you and make them feel welcome.
That's a lot of pressure. Do we have any other order of business 15? Assemblywoman Howdigi.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Some announcements for the floor. It continues to be Children's Week at the legislature, so please swing by room 3100. Today is also Life Science Innovation Day, CASA Day, Nevada Craft Brewers Association Day with a reception from 5 to 7 at Great Basin Brewery, and Nevada State Railroad Museum Open House from 5:30 p.m. to 7:30 p.m. Tomorrow is Nevada Career and Technical Student Organization Day. Please join them for a breakfast in room 3100 from 7:30 a.m. to 9 a.m. And they will be here until 4 p.m. Seeing no other business, Mr. Speaker, I move that we adjourn to a very fun and festive St. Patrick's Day, or what I like to call my colleague from District 40 Day. So March 17th at the hour of 11:30 a.m.
Assemblywoman Howdigi has moved that the Assembly stand adjourned until Friday, March 17, 2023, in a fun and festive St. Patrick's Day at the hour of 11:30 a.m. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed, nay. Motion carries. We are adjourned.